Everyone loves talking about the generational wars. You've got the boomers, you've got the millennials, and they seem to dominate the whole conversation.
They really do.
But there's this massive group of people sandwiched right in the middle that we just seem to skip over. We need to talk about Gen X.
The forgotten generation, or like the middle child of demographics,
Mm.
born roughly between 1965 and 1980. And you're so right, they just fly under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been looking at a ton of research, a big 5-year study from the Mather Institute, some analysis from Paul Snyder's, and it all shows that Gen X is facing this really unique crisis right now.
I feel like we always use the word unique, but this time the data really, really backs it up. It isn't just about being middle-aged. They are being squeezed from both sides.
It is the absolute textbook definition of the sandwich generation, but like on steroids. The Mather Institute data is pretty startling.
How so?
Well, Gen X is really the first group where their parents are living much, much longer. But their adult kids are also staying home longer because of the economy, housing.
So the nest it never actually emptied out for them.
It's overflowing. Get this, 67% of Gen Xers have a parent over 65.
Wow.
And at the exact same time, 20% are still financially supporting an adult child.
Mm.
So they're parenting their parents and their own kids simultaneously.
The financial stress there must be just off the charts.
It is. 81% report feeling it. And while sure, 68% say they're balancing it, you have to ask at what cost.
Right, because if you're paying for your kids' tuition and your dad's medical bills, what's possibly left for your own retirement?
That's the terrifying part. There's this huge preparedness gap. 55% feel ready to help their kids, but only 35% are actually ready to support their parents. And you can't just chalk this up to, bad budgeting.
No, it feels bigger than that.
It is. You have to look at the economic world they grew up in. And that's where this analysis from Paul Snyder's is so important.
He's the one who talks about the big shift in capitalism, right?
Exactly. He calls it the move from industrial capitalism to managerial or financial capitalism. Some people call it law cap.
That sounds incredibly academic. What does that actually mean for, a regular person just trying to work and pay their mortgage?
So think of it as a massive shift in who holds the risk. In the old model, the industrial one, companies made things. The goal was production. And if you worked there for 30 years, they gave you a pension. The company held the risk.
The loyalty contract.
The loyalty contract. Gen X watched that whole thing just get blown up.
Oh.
They entered the workforce right when the goal shifted to maximizing shareholder value above everything else. So pensions disappear, and they're replaced with 401ks.
So the risk goes from the company directly onto the employee. Here's a mutual fund. Good luck. Hope the market doesn't crash.
You are on your own. That was the message they got. I mean, these are the latchkey kids. They learned self-reliance from a young age. Now they're navigating this corporate world that, according to reports from Little or Mendelsohn, has a real age bias problem against them.
Which is crazy because they're the ones with the most experience.
Right.
So that really explains the famous Gen X cynicism.
Yeah.
But what I thought was really fascinating in the research is that they aren't just taking this burnout. They're actually doing something about it.
They're opting out. It's like a quiet exodus from the traditional 9 to 5 or more like 8 to 8 grind.
Uh-huh.
The Mather Institute found their priorities have totally flipped. Family is now number one for 47% of them. Career. It's dropped all the way down to just 19%.
That is a staggering shift. But wait, how can they afford to just opt out? We just said how financially squeezed they are.
They're cashing in on the one advantage they might have,
Mm.
housing equity. A lot of them bought homes in the 90s or early 2000s before things went totally insane.
So they're selling high, downsizing.
Exactly. Selling, moving to a cheaper area, lowering their expenses. They're not retiring in that old school sense. They're pivoting, becoming consultants, joining the gig economy.
So they're taking that you're on your own model and just making it work for them, becoming free agents.
It's a survival tactic.
Yeah.
They are reclaiming their time. They're finally moving from living to work to working to live. And they're doing it on their own terms.
It's a pretty bold move. But it really makes you wonder if the generation with the most institutional knowledge just decides the whole corporate ladder isn't worth climbing anymore, what happens to the companies they leave behind?
That is the big question, isn't it? Gen X could be the canary in the coal mine. If they're walking away because the deal is broken, maybe everyone else should be paying very close attention to why.
Something to think about. Thanks for listening to this Deep Dive.